Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a great start to your weekend. It's Sean with Paycheck to Portfolio. Today, I'm going to talk about how I'm 100% invested, and here's how I still pay my bills. If you're new to my channel, I have a simple chart I'll start out on, and then I'm going to break it down step by step. Basically, all of my W 2 income rolls into the brokerage account. I don't live out of a traditional banking account. With those funds, I buy dividend and growth assets. Really, I invest in the three buckets: long term growth, stocks and funds, closed end funds, and high yield, high dividend paying assets. What my dividends don't cover, as they snowball, my margin bridges the gap for my expenses and the cycle continues. And then what's going to happen over time is that my dividends will snowball and allow me to live free from a 9 to 5 job. We refer to that as FIRE lifestyle. That stands for financially independent, retire early. And it's basically built around compounding and investing all of your income on the front end instead of the leftovers on the back end. As Albert Einstein once said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it, right? So, unfortunately, in our culture, we're taught to be consumers. I'm trying to shift that mindset to be business owners over our own resources. I'm going to go through this step by step here shortly. Going to do a quick portfolio update like I always do at the beginning of the video, and then we'll jump right into the nitty gritty details. Currently, my net account value is sitting at $142,719. My unrealized gain, or the growth of the portfolio, is basically at $36,000 there, or 14.2%. You can see a really good day in the market Friday. We had a gain of $3,712. Obviously, Jerome Powell came out and talked about how we're probably going to get a rate cut, or it sounded that way, and that maybe the real estate market starts to move. But time's the great equalizer. We'll know here in the next month. Looking at my performance, we'll go to the 1 year first, and then we'll go to 3 year. Basically, I'm sitting at 46% on the 1 year. The S&P's at 14.7%. The Nasdaq's at 20%. The Dow's at almost 11%, and the Russell's at 6.5% there. On the 3 year, you can see I'm sitting at 83%. The S&P's at 51. The Nasdaq's at 65. The Dow's at 35, and the Russell's at 17. What these charts show you is the cumulative growth of the portfolio. It's based off of time weighted return, essentially, but you can see it has cumulative down here. And what that means is this doesn't take into account any cash coming into the portfolio or any withdrawals. It really is just the growth of the portfolio and dividends added back in. If you look at my historical value, I started fully living out of the brokerage in June of 2024. Unfortunately, E-Trade, when I click the 1 year, it only will default back to exactly 1 year. If you look at my 2 year, it was right about here is when I started living out of the account. So just wanted to clarify that. So currently in the 1 year, my account's up almost $40,000 there. You can see back in September, I was sitting at basically 105. You can see the beginning of the month was 103. And now I'm currently sitting at the $142,000 mark. So I'm fully living out of the brokerage, as I've mentioned. And so with the system, you get growth, you get compounding, and you get cash flow. So the next piece of it is the estimated income, which is dividends that roll into the account. And so basically the way that E-Trade calculates this is the last dividend payment you get, it will annualize that out for a year based off of fund. So currently for the next year, I'm projected to be at about 50,000, a little bit more than that. If you look at my my next 1 month, you'll see I'm sitting at about 4,200. So I need about $100,000 a year to live free from corporate America. So I'm about 51% of the way there. And so each time my paycheck rolls in, each time I buy more assets, I get closer and closer to that $100,000 mark. So let's jump right into the step-by-step information. So I always try to make some pretty complicated workflows as easy to understand as possible. I'm going to talk about just the steps here. So essentially your brokerage account becomes your bank account, which we'll talk about in practical application. But you can use multiple brokerages. I have members that have Schwab, Fidelity, Robinhood, and others. Now, Robinhood and Interactive brokers do not typically offer the closed-end funds that I'm interested in, such as Cornerstone. They have lower margin interest rates, which is great. I just wish that they offered closed-end funds. They're still great options. They'll still work, but you'll miss out on some of those drip it nav features I talk about. If you go check out my Wednesday video talking about Cornerstone, I talk about that specifically. But obviously, you need to open a brokerage account, whether it's E-Trade, Fidelity, Schwab, or others. You'll direct deposit your funds directly into the brokerage as opposed to a traditional bank account. They have a debit card that functions just like a regular debit card that you can order from the brokerage. So in E-Trade, if you simply search debit card in the search function up here, I'll show you real quick. If you just search debit card in here, it'll take you straight to their basic, how to order your debit card. And I'll just show you briefly just so you can see it. And then you request your debit card and it looks just like this. This is what my debit card looks like right there. So, and then you can automatic bank draft, such as my mortgage. And I don't have any car payments, but if you did, you could draft from the brokerage account, and that's how it works. It functions just like a bank account would. From a practical application standpoint, your brokerage acts as your bank account now. Funds are deposited directly into the brokerage, not the bank, like I just said. You can swipe your card for normal purchases. Some members of mine use credit cards. Basically, they collect the rewards and then they transfer those payments to their credit cards and they pay it off every billing cycle. I haven't done that. I'm seriously considering doing that. For me, it's more psychological, and I often, wrestle internally with myself that when I swipe my E-Trade debit card and I see my account value drop, I feel like I'm controlling my spending better, and I'm probably making more than 2% cash back. That being said, both cards offer security for you. They're both protected from fraudulent activity. Credit cards will give you that extra layer, and you can get some rewards. So I really am on the fence, and I'm considering this. And we have a lot of good members in our community that are very sharp, and they're doing that successfully. And then you can automate your bills being paid out of that. All of my bills are basically automated. My student loan bills and internet and things like that automatically come out, my mortgage and things that I've discussed. So that's the practical application. So I'm going to talk about the cash flow cycle in two ways. You don't have to use margin if you're uncomfortable with it. I use margin because I want compounding. I want to front load all of my paycheck, and I want to expedite retirement if I can. I'd like to retire in the next 5 to 10 years as opposed to waiting till I'm 65. So basically, if you're using margin as a bridge to cover your expenses, money comes into the brokerage account. Basically, it pays down your margin utilization. Okay. Your equity increases in the account. And I'll just show you that real quick on mine so you can see it visually. So if you go to balances on my tab, I'll show you exactly where you can see that. So basically, my paycheck hit Friday, came in here. You can see it's pending. It paid down my margin utilization right here, which immediately increased my margin equity. And I simply spend and live off that equity. I always keep 50% or greater in my account, which I'm going to touch on. But I just wanted to show you visually what I'm saying here on an Excel file. Margin comes in, gets paid down, equity increases, and then equity is used to buy assets and live off of. And I invest in 3 buckets: long-term growth stocks, closed-end funds such as Cornerstone, and high yield funds. That way I get growth, I get compounding, and I get cash flow all out of the brokerage. As my dividends snowball and start to cover expenses, it gets me closer and closer to living free from a 9-to-5 job, as I showed. And margin is used as a bridge to cover what my dividends don't cover. And you can scale this. You don't have to go all in like I do. You could start out with a car bill. Say your car bill is $400 a month. You would bring the $400 into your brokerage account. You would invest that $400. Then you would turn around and pay your car bill from the brokerage account, which would tap your margin utilization. And what you do with that is you're creating a business spread. So you're investing into 25, 30, 35% producing assets, and you're borrowing, in my case, at 8.44%. So I'm creating a margin spread, or a business spread is a better way to put it. And my funds are acting like a business as opposed to just being spent to zero like most people. I have very hard rules I live by in this. I always keep 50% or greater equity at all times. I'm not going to over leverage myself. And I always keep put options on for insurance. I've talked extensively about that in the YouTube channel if you'd like to check out some of those videos and how I protect my account. But you can scale into this. It doesn't have to be all or nothing just so you get used to the cash flow cycle. If you decide not to use margin, you can do that as well. So from a cash flow cycle, just with straight cash, money comes into the brokerage, cash is available to spend. You buy assets, same three buckets: growth, closed-end funds, and high yield. Your dividends snowball and are used to help pay your bills. And then the cash flow cycle continues. What you don't get with this is the front-loaded compounding factor of your paycheck, right? The money management kind of looks a little bit like it did in a bank account, but it still compounds and it still eats away at your expenses. So the great thing about this system is it's flexible to whatever you're comfortable with, and you can learn it. And so if you need additional resources, we have those. So I want to show you one tool real quick that we are starting to work on and help. But if you need additional resources, you can always go to my pinned comments in YouTube. I have a free starter kit and a simple calculator that you can grab. You can book 30-minute sessions with me if you'd like. We have a private Discord and membership. And then I offer white glove service, which is an intense hour and a half call, shoulder to shoulder strategy. And basically a whole bunch of resources. It's not a one and done type of a thing, but I'm available basically to help you if you need some intensive help. On our Discord, we're creating a lot of neat tools, very talented people, a lot of folks really good with Google Sheets. So you can punch your own portfolio values in here now. You can adjust your own inflation rate, your own margin interest rate. There's instructions down here. We've built it so you could type in your own tickers and update, and it will grab your dividend yields directly from the web. It grabs the Cornerstone premium drip here and adds it to your non-drip yield and your drip yield blends. It will spit out your 60-month plan, basically your gross portfolio value, your drip dividends, compounding, your non-drip dividends, your interest, your cash after interest, just so you can see what it looks like, your monthly living expenses, the margin used after the dividends roll in, your margin pay down, your current margin debt, your W-2 contributions, and your net portfolio value. Then it tracks your equity. It's meant to show you the power of compounding. And so after 5 years, I'm expected to have a pretty hefty portfolio. And sometimes I'll get comments about, how do you expect your portfolio to grow that drastically? Really, there's three buckets. There's the drip dividends that compound. There's the non-drip dividends as cash flow, basically like a rental home. And then what most people don't realize is $660,000 of that growth is really coming from my own W-2 income that I would have otherwise spent to zero. So that's the biggest catalyst to growing the portfolio, is being fully invested on the front end and 100% in the brokerage account and deployed and making my money work for me. So the cool thing is starting to develop some charts so you can see, on paper what your growth would look like. The stock market's not linear. It's going to go up and down. I'll show you that one last time in a minute, but you can track your net portfolio value, your W-2 contributions and your margin debt. The way it'll look in practical application and in real life, it'll look more like this up and down chart, but over time, the graph is going to increase in value, and that compounding effect is going to take effect of your portfolio and allow you to live free in the long run. So hope you found this video useful. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to everybody soon.